All right, come back at you again. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Kakwadash. Second, want to give divine honors to the apostles of GMS that rule of well, and a peace, blessing, salutations to the hopefully elect out there, and those that are tuning in. That consists of the house of Israel, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians. And I'm going to start off with Psalms 10, and I'm going to see where the Spirit takes me. It says, a prayer for justice, because one thing for certain, the catastrophes that you're about to see, and the legislations and these laws and ordinances that's going to change, and it's going to pretty much affect the people. It's all a planned demolition. And this is why you have your senator, your mayors, your governors, pretty much your branches of Salaki. That's why you have your branches of different ordinances of America, because pretty much when Esau, something happens, he can blame them or set up some new policies and then eradicate it and bring in and override different laws and, ordinances that he has set in place. But overall, everything is going to be conditioned, and it's going to be a conditioned demolition. And one thing for certain, when you, if you've been tuning in, one thing for certain, going back to the USSR or Russia, and ultimately, that hatred or that disdain had never went away, going back into prophecy, because ultimately tells you how Magog and Gog is going to pretty much eradicate this place along with other nations. So one thing for certain, when America was pretty much getting their stronghold, pretty much with this new term of liberalism, democracy, this, pretty much at the brink of, you have your presidents that every 4 to 8 years they change presidents. So pretty much, the people of the world can really think that, America was for the people. So they try to make the world seem like it's open, it's for all, a big melting pot, but it's really an all big shadow government. And one thing for certain, they demonize Russia, and they demonize North Korea, they demonize China, and they demonize Cuba, and they demonize, I want to say, Venezuela and Nicaragua, if I'm not mistaken. Well, pretty much all those places that rebelled or pretty much had a rule of a monarchy. And so what have come to effect is that if any leader that was really had a good stand or a good reason to, any place that he had to stand up against America would demonize him, and then Esau will be justified to come on in and do the wickedness that he does, and then leave the people with a puppet government. And it's a form of democracy in Section 8, but central aid, and to the taking the draining of the resources and of the people. And one thing for certain, while Esau was demonizing this communism and allowing people, and they had Hollywood, the witchcraft, the sorcery, going into Isaiah 47, I believe Revelation 17, and while Esau, America, and Israel, because Israel was forming their stronghold in the Middle East with the Jewish people, with not a you. and the whole smoke screen of the extravagance, the the magnificence, the gold, and the land of opportunity, milk and honey. That whole illusion of America was being pumped up, and the pomp of America was being propagated against the four corners. People really believed that this was the land of milk and land of opportunity, milk and honey, and pretty much a place where is open for all, justice for all, equality, women and men, all races. There's no segregation. There's no hatred here. It's all about love. But that was the biggest smokescreen ever. And the whole time when people were pretty much they came over here, or the inhabitants of America itself, they were being bamboozled, with that witchcraft and that sorcery and those philosophies, Christianity, Catholicism, the TV, the media, the radio stations, the music, everything that has to do with, the form of, it's like the ways of America. One thing for certain, at one time they try to make it seem like, buying a house, the American dream, the white picket fence, the wife, the two kids, it made it seem like, if you work hard, you can obtain it. But overall, the whole message of communism, you don't own anything. You have no control. You have no power. You just pretty much are told what to do. Yeah, they demonized that. But overall, hey, Carl Schwab from Woe, he pretty much before, I think he retired or stood down. But prior to him doing that, he made that treacherous comment which he said and stated, you will own nothing and be happy. So what's going on now is Esau is setting up, like for instance, me growing up, I had family from Cuba, and I two sides. You had Cubans that were for what Fidel did, and you have Cubans that wasn't for it. But long story short, Fidel had good intentions, but Esau cutting that powerhouse and cutting the ability to influence other nations to take a stand upon America and not take their aid and be self-sufficient, be independent. Esau put an embargo on Cuba. Thus, the infrastructure and etc. was pretty much hit hard. And this is why Cuba is suffering to this day due to the embargo. And Esau putting legislations and pretty much making sure the other nation don't do business with Cuba. So, a lot of the infrastructure of Cuba decayed, poverty, oppression, etc. So, and it's a certain way, even though it's not right, that they had to govern that country. But long story short, one thing I used to say growing up, how they used to always demonize Cuba. And when you really look at what's really going on here in America, it's even worse, because it's a form of freedom, but you pay taxes and you don't own anything here. If you don't pay your registration, you don't pay your taxes, you can't move your car. You gotta have a license. You're pretty much everything you do. You're telling all your information. You're giving away all your information. To set up a business, you gotta have the laws. You gotta have the legislation. You gotta have the rights. You got the paperwork. You gotta get a number. You gotta get an IRS number, etc. So when you really look at it, you're not free here. So Salaki with the rant, but Psalms 10:1. A prayer for justice, because again, this is going to be a systemic and condition demolition, because Esau is planning to sabotage his whole infrastructure of America just to bring in the New World Order. And this is why we know the prophets, we know what's to come. It's going to get worse. And Esau is going to use policies, politics, and different antics to bring in and usher in this New World Order. So Psalm 71, why are you so far away, O Lord? Why do you hide yourself when we are in trouble? Because, yeah, bad times are coming, and, we're pretty much in Jacob's trouble. Jacob is getting, hemmed up with ICE. They've been deemed terrorists, the problem, immigrants. Pretty much you don't surpass the so-called Arabs, which so-called bombed the Twin Towers. You don't see Chinese, or you don't see Arabs, you don't see East Indians, you don't see Africans, you don't see these other nations being, ridiculed. Like, goddamn it, why isn't ICE in Chinatown? You had a bunch of Chinatowns and all throughout the East Coast. You got, right off top, you got one in New York, you got one in Philly. But it says, the wicked are proud and persecute the poor. Who's the poor? You Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native American, West Indians. So it says, catch them in the traps they have made. And ultimately, their plan of world domination is going to backfire, because Esau wants to implement that chip. He wants to pretty much govern and have control over all the four corners. But eventually, it's just going to lead to a war, because, we understand this man is not just, he's not fair. He doesn't play by the rules. He plays by the different set of rules. He wants to be like the Most High power, Yahweh. The wicked are proud of their evil desires. The greedy curse and reject the Lord. The wicked do not care about the Lord. In their pride, they think that Yahweh doesn't matter. And this is in the GNT. So, yeah, so the wicked don't care. They don't care about the Lord. They don't care about the law, statutes, commandments. And here it is, the Israelites, not a you, the Jewish people. Here it is, they're in the land, but they don't even read the Bible. They don't even believe in Yahweh Shah. And they go by a different book. They go by the Talmud. So the wicked succeed in everything, yeah. Because one thing for certain, just like when you read Romans, the 9th chapter, it tells you pretty much how, Esau, so like Yahweh has allowed Esau to obtain a numerous and a strength, a horn of power, just so he can bring him down. Because ultimately, Esau has this heinous plan and agenda that he's going to be able to chip everybody and ultimately, sit himself as a god, a power, and and if anybody pretty much combats or goes against him, he has the willpower to pretty much just wreak havoc on you. So ultimately, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to stir up the other nations, because Esau's going to try to cause ruckus on the earth, but ultimately, in the midst of World War III, Yahushua is going to prevail and come through. So it says with the multitude of angels. So it says, they cannot understand Yahweh Bashim Yahushua's judgments, and one thing for certain, this is the time of judgment. When you read, I believe Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, tells you, this is the place of judgment. Here lies the earth is the place of judgment. And you also know, what is it? In the 2nd Esdras, it tells you, I think the 9th chapter talks about how perilous times will come. It talks about how men shall desire to go into the city, etc. They won't be able to. Because what's about to happen is a lot of chaos and ruckus and distress is going to happen upon you, men, women, and you children. And due to the fact that this do as thy will, this the push of living by the flesh, greed, lust, covetousness, you American people have pretty much just destroyed yourselves in comfortability, leisure, pleasure, and just wanting to do whatever you want. And if you don't get your way, you hiss and bitch and complain about it, and ultimately Esau is going to cause ruckus. And it's like just like the time of the JAB, you had Esau pretty much shut the world down, shut America down, and due to the fact that all you people just wanted was to continue to fill your bellies and your covetousness and your wicked desires. These people just went ahead and took the stab, took the jab, just so you could proceed on. But same thing's going to be with the MOTB. Esau is going to take away certain things. He's going to close certain things down. He's going to allow chaos to erupt. He's going to allow pain, catastrophe, anguish, death, sword, all sorts of ruckus. He's going to allow it to happen just so he can usher in a new system to, pretty much say, Esau's coming with a new form of hope, a new plan. And best believe, it's going to sound good because these people are going to take that MOTB. Because one thing you realize about Esau makes things seem sweet. So he pretty much put honey on shit and makes that shit not look so bad or smell so bad. But all in all, he caused a problem. He caused a ruckus. And he's bringing another solution. Because the reason why America's fucked up is because of what? The so-called white man. He's the powerhouse. Those fake U's. So it says they sneer at their enemies. They say to themselves, we will never fail. We will never be in trouble. Their speech is filled with curses, lies, and threats. Yeah. Here it is. Trump get on that podium and a lot of these Edomites, man. They got the suits on, they all Masonic tied, etc. But, their speech going into a rich man can speak and he say things or not he speak, but hey, everybody will listen. The poor, the prophets, if we speak, man, everybody basically questions our rhetoric, right? So-called rhetoric. But Esau can say whatever he wants and nobody questions or bats an eye. So it says the speech is filled with curses, lies, and threats. They are quick to speak hateful, evil words, and that's what Esau does, And one thing Esau does a lot is reverse psychology. He'll say one thing. He uses that term newspeak. If you don't know what it is, you can look it up. They hide themselves in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. Yeah, they spy on their helpless victims, and that's what the big brother. That's the whole purpose of this whole Gideon, the MOTB. This is why he has droids, AI, etc. Everything is pretty much watching you. Just like on 64, leaving Henrico, going into heading to the Williamsburg section, they set up a highway camera, and a lot of people are getting bills in the mail. So this man is everywhere. So it says they spy on the helpless victims. They wait in their hiding place like lions. They lie in wait for the poor. They catch them in their traps and drag them away. And one thing for certain, this MOTB, this new system, pretty much they're going to be able to pretty much stop you, at a touch of a button or a blink of an eye. If you're going against the system, you're complaining, Esau can just pretty much cut you off from the system. And you just wither away or go to wherever. But see, right now, pretty much Esau has took the crumbs that he gave to you, but ultimately he's really, doing the COVID era. It pretty, he just, the crumbs that he gave to the people, he took back. But now, the damage is done, the effects is done, the JAB, the work of the JAB is done, and right now you're already staggered. Now he's just ready to hit you with the finishing move to finish you off, and then as you're staggering, you're tired, and you're waking up just not knowing what the hell's going on. Because once you come back, when you get knocked out, you come back to your senses. You're not sharp or keen. You wake up staggering. You don't know what's going on, and you're looking around, your vision is blurry, etc. So it says, the helpless victims lie crushed. You see that? Brute strength has defeated them. And we understand when you go into the prophecies, it tells you that, when that deadly wound that was healed, which is Rome, that horn of America, it was going to be uplifted. I mean, when you go into the visions that John saw, the Revelator, he actually saw dragons, man. A great dragon, which implemented great strength. And when you look at it, when you see a dragon, you ask yourself, who the hell can, what man can defeat a dragon? And then it had different, horns and heads, etc. Ultimately, just showing you the power, the power of that dragon. So it says, brute strength has defeated them. The wicked say to themselves, the Most High Yahweh Bashir Yahushua doesn't care. But hey, that's on the left hand. The demons on the left hand side got Esau in derision. He has closed his eyes and will never see me. O Lord, punish those wicked people. Remember those who are suffering. Who's suffering? The elect. How can the wicked despise Yahweh and say to themselves, he will not punish me? So that's Esau for you. He actually believes he plays a victim and he's a fugitive. He tries to, pretty much reflect and avoid being detected and having to, what's the word? Accept accountability. Nigga, you fucked up the world. Esau, the so-called white man, he's fucking up the earth. Said, but you take notice of trouble and suffering and are always ready to help. And the Lord is going to protect his elect. The helpless commit themselves to you, who have always helped the needy. That's right. Break the power of the wicked and evil people. So, ultimately, Yahweh, he's going to send judgment upon Esau, Amalek, and even 2/3 of his own people. And pretty much the sons of men and the sons of the wicked. Punish them for the wrong they have done until they do it no more. And ultimately, when Yahweh comes to subdue, I believe that's Isaiah the 63rd chapter, he's going to come back to subdue Esau, and he's going to put Esau in the chains, and 1,000 years later, he will be exterminated. Going back to my boy, my man's, I forgot his name, that old, the so-called black professor in that school who has the gray dreadlocks. He pretty much said the problem of the earth is the so-called white man, which he was on point. And they try to demonize him. But it says, the Lord is king forever and ever. Those who worship other gods will vanish from his land. Yeah, so one thing for certain, and it says it right there. One thing for certain, Netanyahu and Amalek and those Jewish people, they don't serve the power of the Bible. They serve their own God. Their power and might don't come from the Lord himself, Yahweh himself. It comes from who? America. And their wrongdoings, the ability to throw away money, and what is it? What's that word? Bribe. Yep, robbery. So it says, so those who worship other God will vanish from the land. So, that's a cut on you. Talmud, you will listen, O Lord, to the prayers of the lowly. You will give them courage. You will hear the cries of the oppressed and the orphans, and that's ultimately us. You will judge in their favor so that mortal men may cause terror no more. So these Edomites, which are mortal men, and it's going to be, like the scripture says in Isaiah, if I'm not mistaken, is this the man that took peace from the earth and made nations to tremble, Because after Yahweh is done with Esau, he's going to bring him back to being that base man that he always was. But, he got too big for his britches. But I'm going to go back to this thing up, Lord. So he was edified with that. Shalom.